That's what's at stake in this election. That's my commitment. Change is a future where we do reduce our deficit, but we do it in a balanced, responsible way. You know, I've already signed $1 trillion worth of spending cuts. I intend to do more. But if we're serious about the deficit, we also have to ask the wealthiest Americans to go back to the rates that they paid when Bill Clinton was in office. Because if I'm not paying a little bit more, and Governor Romney's not paying a little bit more, then the choice is to start cutting out help for young people trying to go to school. You know, it's to hurt folks who are vulnerable and depend on things like Medicaid. You know, as long as I'm president, I will never turn Medicare into a voucher just to pay for another millionaire's tax cut. I'm not going to make it more expensive for some young person who's working hard trying to go to school. I'm not going to make them pay more just so I get a tax break that I don't need. I'm not going to cut out some research grant to some outstanding young scientist that could have the next discovery for cancer. You know, just because, you know, I want a tax cut that I don't need. That's not who we are. That's not what change is. We know what the future requires. And we know it won't be easy. You know, back in 2008, I told some of you, I said, look, well, I'm not just talking about changing presidents or changing political parties in Washington. I said, if we're going to talk about real change, we're talking about changing how our politics works. I ran because the voices of the American people, your voices, have been shut out of our democracy for way too long by lobbyists and special interests, politicians who will do whatever it takes to keep things just the way they are. And over the last 4 years, you've seen it. The status quo in Washington has fought us every step of the way. They've spent millions trying to stop us from reforming the healthcare system. They've spent millions trying to keep us from reforming Wall Street. They engineered a strategy of gridlock in Congress, refusing to compromise on ideas that both Democrats and Republicans in the past have supported. What they're counting on now is that you're going to be so worn down by all the squabbling, so worn down by all the dysfunction, that you'll just give up, walk away, put them back into power. In other words, Ohio, their bet is on cynicism. My bet is on you. My fight is for you. So when the other party's been with me in that fight, I've worked with them. Look, you know, there have been times when Republicans cooperated on tax cuts for middle-class families and small businesses. There were Republicans who helped us repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. When they're about broadening opportunity and helping the middle class, we can work together. But as long as I'm president, you know, I've said I will work with anybody of any party to move this country forward. If you want to break the gridlock in Congress, you'll vote for leaders who feel the same way, whether they're Democrat, Republican, or independent. But I'm not just going to cut a deal that kicks students off of financial aid, or gets rid of funding for Planned Parenthood, or lets insurance companies discriminate against people with pre-existing conditions, or eliminate health care for millions on Medicaid who are poor or elderly disabled. You know, if that's the price of peace, then I'm not going to pay that price. That's not bipartisanship. That's not change. That's surrender to the same status quo that has hurt the middle class and all those families who are trying to get into the middle class for way too long. And Ohio, I'm not ready to give up on the fight. I'm not ready to give up on the fight to make sure that the middle class is growing. I'm not ready to give up on the fight to make sure every child has opportunity. I hope you aren't either, Ohio. I hope you aren't either. You know, the folks at the very top in this country, they don't need another champion in Washington. They already have a seat at the table. They'll always have access and influence. The people who need a champion are the Americans whose letters I read late at night. The men and women I meet on the campaign trail every day. The laid-off worker who's gone back to a community college to retrain for the jobs of the future. She needs a champion. The restaurant owner who needs a loan to expand after the bank turned him down, he needs a champion. The cooks and the waiters and the cleaning staff at a hotel trying to buy a first home or send their kid to college, they need a champion. The auto worker who had lost a job, wasn't sure the plant would ever reopen, and now is back in that plant building a car and feeling the dignity and pride of doing a great job, he needs a champion. Those kids in inner cities and small farm towns in the valleys of Ohio, rolling Virginia hills, right here in Hilliard, kids dreaming of becoming scientists or doctors or engineers or entrepreneurs or diplomats or even a president. They need a champion in Washington. You know, the future will never have as many lobbyists as the past does, as the status quo does, as the vested interests do. But it's the dreams of those children that will be our saving grace. It's the dreams of those children that move us forward. That's what we have to champion. That's why I need you, Ohio, to make sure their voices are heard, to make sure your voices are heard. We've come too far to turn back now. We've come too far to grow faint-hearted. It's time to keep pushing forward, to educate all our kids and train all our workers, create new jobs, rebuild our infrastructure, discover new sources of energy, broaden opportunity, grow our middle class, restore our democracy, to make sure that no matter who you are or where you come from, you can make it in America. That's what we're fighting for. Ohio, I'm asking for your vote. And if you're willing to work with me again and knock on some doors with me and make some phone calls for me and turn out for me, grab your friends and neighbors and co-workers, we'll win Ohio. We'll win this election. We'll reaffirm the bonds that tie us together. We'll reaffirm the spirit that makes the United States of America the greatest nation on earth. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. God bless America.